Let's talk about text nodes in Ventuz. To do that, like always, I jump into an empty scene and I change to my logic layout. You can find the text nodes in the toolbox under the category text, and then you have here all the text nodes. So we'll start with the text 2D node first. So simply drag and drop that here. Once we do that, then a little drop down will open where Ventuz want to know what kind of text provider we want to use. We have here the choice between block text and rich block text and scroll text. We will simply start with this block text. Once we do that, then we can see we have here two nodes in that content editor. That's the text node, and here we have a block text node. We will start with the block text node because this is basically the node where you type in text and where you can change your fonts and things like that. So from top to bottom, we have here our selection where we can choose our font. From here, you have already a couple of presets which you can choose from, right? As we do that, then you can see text is changing. So let me add also axis just to make the text a bit larger. That's more clear for you to see that, right? So if we change here, for example, to code, then another font will be used. You are also able to choose from any font which is installed on your system. If you simply click here, edit, then this window select typeface will open, and over here you simply can say I want to create or you want to change fonts from existing presets, or you simply say, hey, I want to make a new preset. Let's call it Mat 1. And then you can choose basically from here fonts which are installed in your project or fonts on your system, right? And as you can see here, you have a bunch of basically all fonts which are installed on your system you can choose from, right? So let's use it at Ravi, for example. Once you did that, you simply press that plus. Once you define the name, then you press that plus. Then the red preset name changes to black. After that, you simply press OK, and then Ventuz will ask you if you want to import this font into the project or if you simply want to reference to it on your system. So let's reference it, and that means everything is good. And now you can see once we click OK, we choose now our new preset with that new font, right? So if we go a little bit more further down here, then we can turn on the kerning. We can choose if we want to have the alignment from right to left or from left to right. We can choose how the text wrapping should work. That means actually when a line is at the end, how Ventuz should treat that. Yeah, if we should wrap characters or if we should wrap words at a line end. As you can see here, by default it's word. Then you have the text alignment in the vertical and in the horizontal, right? Let's put that here to the center, and that line alignment as well to the center. So you can see now the text is perfectly aligned in the center of our scene. Then you have also access here to the character spacing basically. And you also can change the line spacing if you have multiple lines of text. The next thing what we want to talk about is the bounding box. That's by default on static, and the width and the height on 0, which basically means that Ventuz is calculating the bounding box based on the amount of text you type in here, right? So if we turn on the bounding box, then you can see we have here our bounding box. And if we increase that width value, right, then you can see we can define basically our own width and height, right? So we have two words now, and as here our text wrapping is set on word, Ventuz will basically wrap the second word text after that line ends here, okay? So mostly default is okay, depends totally on you. Then we have here the extended layout where we can turn on and off the monospace if you want to use that. We also can use emojis. If you want to use emojis in your scene, you have to enable this in the project settings. To reach the project settings, you simply click here on that Ventuz logo, and down here you have emojis, and here by default it's on none, but you simply choose whatever set you want to use, which emoji set is installed on your system, for example, right? So I use the default one with 128 by 128 pixels. I press OK, and then I also have to enable the emojis here. If I open our text editor now with that three little dots over here, and I delete this text and I press the Windows key and hold it, and then I press as well the period key, then this emoji page will open where you then simply can choose from all that available emojis, okay? Let's close this text editor now again. And of course, down here you have the default text inputs, and you also can set a Boolean basically if you want that this text is read it as a XML. Okay. For the outputs from this, from our block text, you also can see we have access to the X and Y position and the width and the height of our bounding box basically, right? And a couple of other specialized outputs. So now let's talk about our text node itself. Here we have a couple of input properties basically, where we simply can turn on a Boolean to improve transparency for certain cases. And down here we can set up a style. So here we can choose outline only, for example, right? Or we can choose here outline fire, and then you can see you can basically choose the different styles of your text, right? You also have here access to advanced preset manager basically. If you open here that edit, then you can see we get here our select advanced 2D font style, and here you can create pretty complex and cool presets. Yeah, so this is basically a editor to create your style presets, but you also can do that on another way. Let me show that now. If we go down to our toolbox, then you can also find here the text style 2D. If we drag and drop that here in the content editor, and we simply connect the style from our text node to this style 2D node, then you can see we also have access to a couple of different options. For example, the plane layer to the effect 1, effect 2, and effect 3. So let's say my effect 1, let's choose here something like a balloon, right? And as you can see, now we have a kind like outline. If we check out now the settings here, right? I can offset this text here to the X, to the Y, even into the Z if I want, right? I also can set up a blur, right? So if I want to have it a little bit more blurry or shiny, right? You can change the transparency, and you have up to 4 different basically layers where you can create your own styles here with the style 2D node. The last node we want to talk in this tutorial is our text 3D node. So simply drag and drop that in our hierarchy editor, and we also choose the block text. And as you can see, we already have some text. Let's also put the axis in front to make it a bit larger and scale that up. So the next thing I want to do, I want to center it to my scene. So text alignment center and the line alignment center as well. And now you can see already we have a nicely extruded 3D text. If I rotate this, then you also can see it's closed on all sides basically. But what we can see here now, the tessellation is pretty low here, right? So you can see here it's not a very nice round O. It's really a little bit, yeah, edgy, right? So if we go to our text node 3D, right, then we can see we have pretty much the same settings like our text 2D node. And down here we have also that style. So if we open that drop down, we can change it to beveled. Once we do that, Ventuz will load new meshes. And now you can see already we have a very small little bevel here on that edges, and also the tessellation is much more higher, right? So let's zoom in a bit. As you can see now, we have a very, very nice round C and an O, and also that nice little bevel. What you also can do with this text 3D, you can basically create your own style, right? To do that, you simply click here that edit, and then our window select mesh font style will open. And same like in the fonts, what I showed you in a previous tutorial, you also can create your own presets, right? Where you then can say, for example, let's call that matte, and I say I want to have it high, that's okay. So this quality basically affects the tessellation, right? So if we bring that to low, then we will have a very, very low tessellation of our characters. So I'm happy actually with high, very high. If you need to go into very close-ups of your 3D text, then very high is also okay. Then you can set up here your extrusion depths, which phases you want to have, and then you also have here different options for the bevel, right? So this is the typical normal bevel. Let's put that to 0.25 maybe. Then we say also plus to save this preset matte, and we say okay. And now Ventuz will load or basically create this new meshes. This can take some while, so I will fast forward here. So once it's done, then you can see we have now applied our own style, right? So let's change that a bit again. Let's go to our edit, and maybe we increase here our size of the bevel to 0.25. Let's do that. And we say, okay, we save it, and okay. Ventuz will load the meshes again. And now you can see we have here a very, very heavy bevel basically, right? This is how you can set up your own styles of that 3D text notes.